In elementary school who gave her eye a paper cut and had to get her corneas replaced when she was a kid, and it was terrible, and she's like, that's too bad.
Oh my gosh.
And her mom's like, what Pastor Carl was trying to tell you is stop that.
Jeez, is that for real?
Yeah, that actually happened when I was a kid.
That's horrible.
At my elementary school. I mean, you could.
Oh, that's worse. That's a true story, and they're still not scared.
That wasn't like something I heard from someone's aunt. No, that actually happened to a girl in my elementary school.
So are you going to tell us when to start?
Oh, well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Next Day podcast.
I love that.
The next day on your discipleship journey.
If you want to learn more about scratched corneas and traumatizing events in Carl's childhood,
go talk to your optometrist.
Yeah.
Yeah, Carl is. Yeah, don't listen to this. This is just a story to scare you away from pretending that a piece of paper is a telescope.
Yes.
Pastors are really good at scaring people to do things.
Yes, we are.
Well, yeah. I'm Chad.
I'm Christy.
We are joined by
Pastor Carl.
And for the first time
ever
on the Next Day podcast history,
Pastor Yesley.
Yay!
Oh.
Yeah, we're glad you're here, Yesley. I think we may have built up that you were going to be here last week, but then I know somehow a scheduling thing came up, so all our listeners were just disappointed.
Pastor Carl stole her for a meeting.
And, gosh, now we're having to adjust the mics if you hear a lot of noise.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But this is our podcast where we're going to be talking about the sermons that you got to hear on Sunday. If you were in the Element, you got to hear Pastor Christy. If you were in the traditional service, you got to hear Pastor Preston. And if you were in the West Campus, you got to hear Pastor Carl. And who did Courage? Was that
Pastor Preston?
That was Preston, yeah. So... But before we get to that, first we just want to get to know you, Yesley, just a little bit. We will get to our icebreaker and all that in a little bit, but we did want to get to know you. So where have you come from?
Where do you go? Where do you come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
Yeah. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you want people to know about you.
Sure. I am excited to be here. I'm originally from El Salvador, but I've lived in Houston my whole life, pretty much. And I am a resident of Katy. So it's been lovely to have a very, very short commute.
Yes. Compared to, because you were at St. Luke's in Gethsemane. So how long? That was
about an hour each way.
Oh, gosh.
That's the dream.
And now what is it?
Now it's 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
You got to see so much of Houston before.
Do you find
yes,
yourself...
I saw so many car accidents, unfortunately.
But we're not involved in one, right?
No, almost.
She caused them all. Now, do you find yourself, being more late now that you're closer to somewhere, or is it about the same?
Well, I have 3 children, so I'm always late.
Enough said.
Okay, because there was a time where I had a distance between church, and I was always on time. And then one time I lived right next door to the church. Somehow I was late.
Because you always...
all the time.
Because you're like, I have time. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, it's just a minute walk over there, and then it's like, oh, shoot, I'm late.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if that had that kind of thing.
No.
We call that walker time in my family.
All right, but you mentioned you have 3 kids?
I do.
3 kids?
I have 3 boys. I have an 8-year-old, a 4, and a 3.
All right. And so Yesley, she's not a stranger to the church either, because there's all these little connections to people who know you. So Yesley did a licensing school with me in the summer of 22, but then she went to seminary classes with Christy.
Yeah, we commuted sometimes even.
Yeah. And then I think other people have worked. I think Paige knew you from working at St. Luke's, and then other people kind of knew you from other things too. So.
Yeah, the Walkers are my neighbors. The
Not
other,
me. Not me.
Which
Yeah.
walkers? The other
Pat and
walkers?
Patricia.
Yeah, Pat and Patricia.
Oh, okay. Nice. So
And
there's
me and
also-
Yesley actually went through confirmation together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is that in Ohio or Virginia?
I did it in Ohio.
Oh, okay.
They probably went through confirmation relative to the same time, maybe. No, did you?
I
guess-
grew up Pentecostal, so I never
Yeah.
went through confirmation.
That's right. That's
Oh,
right.
Okay.
Yes.
Very nice. All right. Well, we're glad you're here, Yesley, and we're glad you're on this episode, and you'll be on several more, I'm sure. We'll see how this goes. And so, but I wanted to bring up a icebreaker question, and I brought this up in The Element. It was my poll question for The Element, and I didn't know how. I thought I had it all nailed down of all the types of
We had
mascots
so
there
many
were,
shout
but
outs.
apparently there's all sorts of different mascots out there. So I just wanted us to share, like, from the schools that you went to, it could be elementary all the way up to high school. What were your mascots growing up? Like, what were some of those mascots?
I don't know if my elementary school had a mascot. They might have, but I don't remember. I know that in middle school it was panda, Persian pandas.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
And
Alliteration.
then,
There you go.
and then high school it was the Bel Air Cardinals.
Oh, Bel Air, yeah.
Yes.
What?
All right.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
Cardinals. I was elementary school. We were the Lions, and then junior high, the Tigers.
No.
And then
The
No.
Bears, please, the Bears.
No.
I wish no. And then we were the Bobcats.
Oh,
And then I was a Bobcat in college too. So, and we were like, we had maroon and white were our colors at Sci Fair, where I went to high school as the Bobcats. BFND.
BFN. Which, by the way, somebody, I mean, like a church member, it was at Courage last time, and someone was singing like some
Fight song?
fight song
Yeah.
from there, and I was
Bobcat
like, oh wow,
fight never dies.
yeah. And when I went up to someone else, I was like, yeah, well, I didn't know we had someone BFND, and they're like, looked at me like, how do you know that? And
I know.
I used to work in there, and students went there.
Justin
and all
always
that.
makes fun of me, but like I'll meet somebody and we find out that we went to the same high school, and we're both just like, oh yes, I fair BFND. It's like it
It's
literally
not a
has
curse
never
word.
died.
It's not a curse word. Everyone thinks, what does that mean? That must be vulgar or something.
No.
It's like, no.
Bobcat
It depends on
fight
where you go to
never
school.
dies. Yeah, and then I was a Bobcat in college, and one of our colors was like crimson. So,
Oh, yeah. So you just kept the same color
so it was
scheme.
all good.
Yeah. Carl, what about you?
In elementary school, we were the John F. Kennedy Cardinals.
Oh.
And then in middle school, we were the Kettering Middle School Wildcats. And then in high school, I went to two high schools. I went to Kettering Fairmont High School. We were the Firebirds, which was actually an amalgamation. They used to have Fairmont East and Fairmont West, and one was the Dragons and one was the Falcons. So when they came together into one school, they became the Firebirds.
I love that.
And their logo, if you flip it upside down, it turns into a dragon. It's super cool. And then I was a Clark County High School Eagle. And then I went to Shenandoah University, where I was a Hornet. And then I went to Wesley Theological Seminary, where I was a picture of John Wesley on a horse.
Oh, I forgot about Perkins Mustangs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mustang.
In college, I went to U of H, so go Cougs.
Oh, go
Yeah.
Cougs, yeah. Let's see. In one of my elementary schools, we were the Roadrunners. And then another one, we were the Beavers. And our song was... They always call us eager beavers. Something like that.
That's a good song.
I know.
Watching the dance moves with it really made it, you know?
I can't sing it and not do it. Then I was Lufkin Middle School, Lufkin High School Panthers. They just had the same for both of those. And then I went to SFA to become a lumberjack. And yeah. And kind of going with Chrissy there, like our hand sign for Lufkin was just doing an L.
Oh, no.
But then being a lumberjack was just raising another finger, and then it was just like, all right, that's SFA, and then we were both purple, so it's all good. But yeah, whenever I mentioned that in the element, I was like, okay, I have it down to a few. Like, how many of y'all's mascots were a bird? Okay, how many was like a cat? Okay, how many were like a person? Okay, and I thought that was kind of it. And they go, wait, what about horses? What about fish?
Yeah.
What about? I was like, oh shoot, I forgot about a lot of.
I know you're like,
different-
are there any I'm missing? And then people were like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there is. I've never heard more people more vocal in the element ever.
What about this? Okay, and then I was like, okay, this is why we're going to be over time, and I'm pretty sure that was the reason.
It was
why.
the
Go
reason,
banana
yeah.
slugs.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
The
Well,
extra
let's
2
get.
minutes went.
Yeah. Well, let's get to our sermons. So, like I already mentioned, we're going to be talking about the sermons. We're in the sermon series called Last Round Draft Picks. Last week was our first round of the last round draft picks, where we talked about David. This time we are talking about someone who Jesus picked that nobody would have really expected him to, and that was Levi, who invented the jeans. And that is also our sponsor, Levi's. When you need jeans, get Levi's. All right. But also known as Matthew.
All the
Levi Strauss actually invented those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Pastor Carl is
During the gold rush
going to correct you on this.
of 1849.
Yeah. Well, let's start with and Carl and Yesley. And Yesley was over at the West Campus, so she had many critiques on Carl's sermon and everything. So
They were
feel free
only
to bring
miniature,
those-
though.
Yeah. But Carl, tell us a little bit about your sermon. I know there was much football to be talked about.
I didn't
very
think I
apropos.
talked about as much football as I did, but apparently I did, and people know the difference between like a nickel defense and a dime defense now.
I don't.
Well,
I guess I need to go
a
listen
nickel
to
is
your
when you
sermon.
bring in an extra defensive back. A dime is when you bring in 2 extra defensive backs. And then you have quarter defense, which is kind of like prevent defense,
it's
where you have
like-
like so many more defensive backs.
Is that like when you're like really struggling in the game? You got to like.
Well, it's when you're trying to stop the other team from passing the ball. So typically, it's either when you're playing a really good pass offense or when you're up by a bunch of points, and the only way that they can get back in the game is to throw garbage time kind of passes. That's how you end up with like Russell Wilson getting 450 yards in passing yesterday and Dak Prescott getting 380 yards because neither of their teams knew how to play defense.
But we won. Go Cowboys. We, as in like.
Anyway, what
America's
was the
team.
sermon about?
I'm gonna say,
I apologize.
What if all of a sudden our numbers, our ratings on this episode just skyrocket because, oh, this is a sports podcast now. Carl broke that down perfectly.
Sports theology. All right, go on.
Sports theology.
That would make a great podcast.
Yeah.
So anyway, we ended up talking about obviously Matthew and how Jesus like kind of just picked him without him reaching out to Jesus. Matthew's just sitting there. He's sitting there at his tax collection station. He's doing his job, and Jesus walks up to Matthew, which is just fascinating. And then they're sitting down at dinner later. And with all these other people, and there's a lot of speculation on who might have been at dinner. We know it was sinners. We don't know exactly who the sinners were, and we can guess, but we don't really know. They were people who may not have been the most savory characters, though, the ones you don't invite to church or you don't invite home to meet your mama. And a lot of the Pharisees, scribes, everybody who is in charge of making sure everybody follows the rules are disappointed in Jesus.
For the first and last time. No, just kidding.
For the first and the last time. And what really comes out of it is they just don't understand Jesus's mercy or God's mercy. And really the way that God's grace works preveniently. Yesley was telling me I used the word prevenient grace, and I didn't write that in the notes, so I'm glad she reminded me.
Very Wesleyan.
Very
Like your
Wesleyan.
mascot.
I only know like 6 things, and I just say them slightly differently a lot of times. So that is one thing I know. But we come to this point in our lives where a lot of times, especially this past week with school shootings, with assassinations, with 9/11, where we forget how to be merciful to other people, especially people who have different viewpoints on things than us, especially people who we look at them when we say, I know your viewpoint is wrong. So like, how do we respond in the same way that Jesus does and offer mercy in that way?
Which I was listening to your sermon, and man, like, the number of times that you just really seemed to get really intense. And it was around that time whenever you're just like, I bet you everyone in this room this last week has thought something that just wasn't loving, that wasn't what Jesus is doing here in this example of bringing, these last rounds together. And so, but yeah, you really do a good job with kind of like, I don't know, I felt a little guilty listening to you.
I actually majored in guilt.
Yeah, here we go.
Wow.
But it is something like...
You were a real preacher this past Sunday.
But the way... But the
Going
way
from preaching to meddling.
Yeah, but the way you did, like, you tied it in really well, I thought, with, like, the events of this last week. With, because there was just a lot of stuff in the news, and there's been lots of division happening. I mean, there's always been this kind of division, but this last week, I've seen it more and more on social media. So you really did kind of talk about that and address it.
I tried.
Yeah, you tried. Did anyone just get up and leave in the middle? And okay, good.
No.
All right.
No.
All right. Yeah. Yesley, what do you think about Carl's sermon? Any points that your kind of takeaways from his?
It was definitely the top 2 she's ever heard at this
Yes,
church.
I think so.
Definitely
This is your
top
first
2.
time at the West Campus.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had never thought about how, Pastor Carl talks about all the other people who always ask Jesus for help, but Matthew does not. And I hadn't thought about how Matthew doesn't ask, but then he's willing to do the right thing immediately, which makes me more curious about the story. Like, had they met before? Or did Jesus just really know Matthew's heart and knew what the answer was going to be? So it just makes me more curious about these characters.
It reminds me a lot of like in John when I think it's Nathan. He's like, how did you know who I was? And Jesus is like, I saw you under the fig tree. Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, Jesus must have been observing him.
Yeah.
And we talked about this with students in our Sunday school. We're talking about this, and I always just find it funny, this image of, because whether it's Jesus going up to the fishermen like Peter and them, or going up to here in Matthew and just saying, I just get this image. He's just walking down the street, just walks by you and goes, hey, come here. And then they just start following him. And I'm like, and I had to tell the series, like, we don't know if that could have been how it looked and exactly how it happened, or there could have been some more conversations. There could have been some more stuff. But the person who's writing this, which I guess Matthew, I don't know, but like just wrote, nope, I just got up and left. And but kind of what that also means is, kind of leaving their old life behind. They're leaving their livelihood because of fishermen and all that. Which, Carl, you mentioning that about the fishermen, like, was it you or is it Chris? I haven't heard y'all's sermons, but like one of y'all just talked about how the fishermen definitely would have, I mean, nobody liked the tax collectors, but also the fishermen, they're having to give most of their money away to these tax collectors. So they definitely would not have liked, so it's not just, because I know, Chrissy, you really talked about the difference with the zealot. And
I did talk about the fisherman. Yeah.
The fisherman. Yeah, so it's just like nobody liked this guy because of his job and occupation.
Yeah. I love that, Carl, like just thinking about the nature of, because I that didn't really, hit me. I think I was, kind of looking at a different angle of this for crafting this sermon. But just like the other instance that we see in Scripture that's really well known, right, of Jesus seeing a tax collector is Zacchaeus. And Zacchaeus, like, climbs up into a tree. Like, there's something that he's doing that song. Zacchaeus was... But he climbs up into a tree, right? Like, and so he's doing something that's, like, singling himself out. Like, he is more, like, seen. Matthew is straight up just, like, doing his job. Like, he's just in the booth. I mean, and honestly, like, I don't know what these booths look like. I don't have I should look up a picture of that. Like,
I imagine a lemonade stand, but a lot scarier.
Yeah. I know. But I'm like, I'm literally picturing glass, and I'm like, there probably wasn't glass.
Like bulletproof glass, like there, just in case.
Or it's a lemonade stand, but you come up, you pay, he pours a glass, he drinks the lemonade and takes your money.
I'm picturing like a movie ticket booth, movie theater ticket
like
booth, where you're all just like, it's very dark in there, like you barely can see the person until you
like
approach.
Bars on the window, so people can't try and choke you to death.
I mean, like, certainly there had to be some sort of
Roman guards right around.
Yeah, like precautions because like they were hated,
Well, I would definitely think there are armed guards with him
for sure.
Because why else would anybody give their money away?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if
And
money
he's
is being handled, like
Yeah.
there has to be some kind of oversight and
kind of
protection
an
around that.
employee of the government. And
Right.
So, yeah.
So I was just, but you talking about that, like, I'm just thinking of the difference between, Zacchaeus being called out by Jesus and Matthew being called out by Jesus. Zacchaeus sort of like puts himself in this position of like being seen.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew is just seen where he is. And I think that that's like so beautiful, such a like, a humbling picture for us in our everyday work that like, whatever it is we're going about doing, like, Matthew was called where he was. It wasn't that he like, put him, but it, we see it in all different ways. I remember preaching about Peter not that long ago, and Peter asking Jesus to call him out on the water, right? To walk on water. And that's a totally different type of call, but Jesus still calls. So it's just like Jesus calling us, like, no matter where we are, like Jesus seeing us no matter where we are.
And that is interesting because he would have known he's a tax collector. Like,
Yeah.
he's at the tax collector booth. Like,
Right. Like, and
there's
Jesus-
no hiding it. Jesus didn't. Oh, I didn't know what he. I just thought
Jesus
he was
is a
nice
Jew.
guy.
Like, he's
Yeah.
very aware of
He's-
like his status in society right now, like is not a very liked person. And so, that's where we talked on Sunday about the fishermen who are the other disciples. It's never really explicitly in the text that there was discord among the disciples because of their like previous professions or allegiances or anything like that. That's not really, it's mentioned that they like fight a lot and they like to argue with each other and they try to like, have a leg up on each other all the time. But it's not really mentioned that it has to do with their professions. Yet you have to be able to see that, like, because if they're like us, if you can imagine, like, I was asking Justin, because I'm not like a football sports person, sports ball, but I try. And I was like, hey, are there any, Carl, maybe you know this too, or maybe Yesley, I'm not going to like count you out, but we're very similar.
She will count me out. She didn't mention
You're right.
me in
I
that.
don't know anything.
Chad, maybe you know too.
No.
Chad keeps a fat head of J.J. Watt in his office, so
Yeah.
I mean,
That's true. There it is. No, I was asking Justin, are there any instances of like, a player from another team that like, then gets drafted onto the, like maybe their rival team
like
and
traded.
like,
Yeah.
whatever the words are, traded onto the team and like maybe was a player that the whole team just like hated before because they were just like, maybe, you see that happen.
Oh, yeah.
Like they fight with each other on the field.
I think of Brett Favre with like going from the Packers to the Vikings. I mean, that's like those are intense
That's a
rivals.
good Brett
Rivals.
Favre answer. Or at the same time, like I think of the Bulls in the 90s with basketball. Dennis Rodman ends up going to the Bulls, and Phil Jackson asks him about whether Dennis Rodman should come. And Dennis Rodman, if you know anything about him, he's a wildly polarizing character. Like he just starts missing from the team for like a week and a half during the season one year, and he married Madonna or something in the middle of it.
Or
but
he'll be on wrestling shows.
Michael was
with
all like,
his
he's gonna
games.
help us win. Get him. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Well, see, and that's like,
Yeah.
that's kind of the,
It's what we need.
Well, and that's what happened with the Cowboys documentary that's on
Oh.
Netflix right now, because they played Deion Sanders, who was
Yeah,
on the
Deion.
49ers, and Deion Sanders just destroyed them. And in their response, the Cowboys were like, well, come be on our team. And then he just jumped ship, and now he's on the Cowboys. And
Yeah.
it's just...
And I was wondering if there was ever any kind of like
prime time, man.
they're the enemy, because like there's no way that like the fishermen themselves weren't thinking like, but he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he has turned, like, how does he deserve to be able to be at this table, right? But then we go a step further, because then you get to Matthew 10 and you see the layout, the 12 apostles, right? So of all the people that are following Jesus, the 12 that Jesus is like, you are going to be my apostles. These are the ones who are going to be like the most trained, like these are the ones studying under the rabbi that are going to go and be sent out to be rabbis and make disciples themselves someday,
My
right?
guys, yeah.
And two of them are polar opposites. Like you see Simon the Cananean, right, which is, or the Zealot, depending on your translation or your gospel that you're reading, right? Simon the Zealot And
Simon the insurrectionist.
yeah, there you go. And Matthew the tax collector, which are like literally
The oppressor's puppet.
Because
a zealot would have been someone who is we do not like the Roman government that's over us. They are oppressing us. We need to fight back. We need to go against them. But then a tax collector is someone going, well, maybe I can make some money off of, chumming it up with the Romans. I'm going to work with them, and I'm going to hurt all my Jewish brothers and sisters. And
but it's like the zealots are they're a rebellion party. Like they are violent. They're scary. They are taking no mercy, right? And then here they are, working on the same team. Like Jesus calls them to the same team, and I'm like that. You read that and you're like, that's on purpose.
I mean, one of my cut for time pieces this week was I looked at the disciples there, and I found myself thinking, fast forward to Acts when Peter has to go and see Cornelius, and he still hasn't figured it out.
Right.
Even after Jesus dies and is resurrected and ascends to heaven, they still don't get it. And even after Peter goes and sees Cornelius, you have stories about Paul saying, Peter, how come you're not associating with the Gentiles as soon as your Jewish buddies show up?
Right.
And so, we know that this isn't something that they got over right away, and it's not something we get over right away. We're still working on it.
Right. But they grew into that, and I think, this is where I see the church so much, in that list of the 12 apostles. What the church ought to be, is that there are people on all different places on that political spectrum, theological spectrum even, right? But they are all putting Jesus at the center, and in that being people of love, that and I listened to Preston's sermon as well, because I was in the 9:00 traditional service, and we landed in the same place. And it's funny because, I feel like sometimes I wrap up these sermons and I'm just love is the thing that's going to heal. God's love. That is what heals everything. Yes. All you need is love. So that, and it feels so cliche, right, to say that. It feels almost weak to say that, but I know that if I'm talking about the love of God that I'm reading in Scripture, it's anything but weak. It's the strongest thing that we have.
And I always think it transforms us also, because when I think about this, Matthew didn't become a follower of Jesus and then still keep taxing people on the side, and still doing, and then as far as we know, for Simon being a zealot and all this, he never went into battle and start violence. And so they all kind of, I don't think they gave up on how they viewed stuff. I'm sure Simon still did not care for the Romans. He still wanted that to change. But somehow going through Jesus, he just saw this different way of going at it. And so... So it's not about us, we have our differences, but we're still just going to go out there and just keep doing wrong things. But no, we can be transformed together while still having maybe somewhat of a different view on things.
But it's one of my professors, were we in this class together? Were we in preaching together? No. But Wes Allen was my preaching professor at Perkins, and he... I remember him talking about this particular, it was Luke's gospel, but talking about this
the better
instance.
Gospel.
And, okay, that's polarizing. Just kidding.
You heard it here first. Luke is the best gospel.
I think I'm of the synoptics. I like them all. You need them all.
Sure. Mark is a shorter read. I like it.
But this
and the first one.
I think Mark gets hung up on some points, though. Why do I need a whole chapter to tell me about John the Baptist dying?
But this story is represented in all the synoptics, right? And I think there's a purpose for that. And I remember talking about this in my seminary class, and my professor saying the phrase, "You come as you are." Jesus invites you to the table as you are. So you come as you are. But in the presence of Jesus, you never stay as you are. And he never says that, right? He says, I am here for the sick, right? The sick need a physician, right? Not the people who are well. So I've come to call not the righteous, but sinners, because of that transforming kind of love. But in all of that, in the middle of that statement, he's like, you have to learn what this means, though. It's not about like sinner the way that you understand it. It's not about like following a set of rules. It's about mercy. It's not about sacrifice. It's about love, right? Is at the center of all of it. And the thing that the Pharisees, did when they came around and they looked at this table of people gathered together is they saw a bunch of sinners, right? Sitting at this table, but they did not see themselves, right? And that's the thing. Like, they wouldn't look at themselves in that moment and realize, like, oh, me judging who's at the table already means that I've missed the mark, right? And I love that, the idea of come as you are, and we love all the way along, but we never stay as we are. We are supposed to be being formed into people of love.
Yeah, like how Carl mentioned in the sermon yesterday, how it is easy for us to say these things, but to actually practice them is a lot harder because love is hard. And so it does require our, spiritual disciplines every day to show up, to read scripture, to remind us of what we're supposed to be doing, to practice daily, to pray, even when we don't want to. I think it's what helps to lead to that transformation.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, this sermon, Preston mentioned this, that this sermon was so appropriate for what we've experienced, in our society over the past, I don't know. I mean, I was going to say last week, but really it's been beyond that. But really, especially last week, like how much we're just inundated by divisiveness and hatred and violence. And,
I mean, there's broken relationships. Families have
Yeah.
It's really, we're at this time, and this is a good message here.
But we, Preston mentioned, we select these scriptures so far in advance, like way farther than we could have ever imagined what was going on in the world at that time, and how, God is in the midst of, picking these passages, right? Like, we often think, we're the ones doing the work, and we are, but it's always, if we have God at the middle of it, it's a partnership every time. And it's just this crazy thing where you can look back and go we had no idea how this was going to align. But as soon as everything was happening, I know that we were thinking about it, Carl, right? How does this speak to people right now? In what we've just experienced. And it's right there in scripture. It's just this, it was an easy tie-in, and it's okay, God, thank you for that.
I think also Matthew reminds us that no one's too far down either. My husband and I were rewatching all the Star Wars movies.
Nice.
And
you're in good company right now.
And with the Kylo Ren, right? It's this whole they're trying to get him back into the good side, and he's it's too late. And it's with Matthew, it's it wasn't too late, right? He's the worst of the worst. It wasn't too late for Jesus. There was no one as bad as we thought he was. Society viewed him, or his own people saw him. He wasn't too far gone for Jesus.
And that's the thing. When I think back at some of the sermons I've done, that phrase has come up many times of that whole I'm too far gone. And I always stress that if you read the Bible, that is the most false statement you can make, because you have these stories and examples of Matthew, but then you just get to Paul, he was killing Christians, his job was to stop it.
With the best of intentions.
Yeah. And yet somehow he is redeemed, and he ends up being this big church leader. So you're not ever too far gone. And I've heard people say that, and sadly I've even heard students say that, thinking that, I've made too many mistakes. And it's no, like, let's talk about this. Because this is really what this is about. And it's what I love about, like, communion. And I think I try to touch on this, too. Is like, at communion, we don't know what baggage people are carrying when they come up and receive the bread and juice. But, like, they're welcome to the table. And we're not excluding someone thinking, well, I think you're a sinner, so you go in the back. Because then nobody will be getting it. And so, yeah. But,
yeah. No, that's good.
So very powerful sermons for everybody. All right.
Best sermon I did all week last week.
It was, wasn't it?
I mean, I guess I also had a funeral. That one was equally as good, I hope.
It really was. It was good. I was there. It was really nice. But yeah, so that is our second sermon for the last round draft pick. Join us next week when we talk about
Moses.
Who's going to sing it? Moses.
Pharaoh. I was like, what are you talking about?
I was waiting for like Prince of Egypt music.
I know. I was like, what are we singing? Is there?
I need to watch
Pharaoh,
Prince of
Pharaoh.
Egypt this week. So good.
So good. Can we just put that on in the office, like on repeat?
I think we should. Yesley's got a TV in her office.
You're not going to watch.
I know.
You're not going to watch the 10 Commandments? Do you not have 12 hours to spare to watch that movie?
I heard that there's. I can't. remember
I'm a big fan of Chuck
it is.
Heston, but no.
I'm trying to remember what movie it is. I was told I need to watch it, and Mel Gibson is in it, I believe. But he's like,
It's Braveheart, right?
He's like Moses, and it's like a comedy. He comes down from Mount Sinai with the tablets.
That's the history of the world.
That's it. Yes, but I was told I need to
Mel
watch
Brooks?
this.
Mel Brooks.
Oh,
Not
Mel
Mel
Brooks,
Gibson.
not
These
Mel
are two
Gibson.
different people.
Sorry, I don't know. Some
two
Mel.
different people.
Some Mel.
Well,
anyway,
go ahead, because this is one of my favorite jokes.
but he's like, he comes down, and then like he's like, I have here from the Lord the 12, and then I guess like breaks it. And then he's like,
it was 15 commandments.
15,
he had
yeah.
3 tablets.
yeah. And then I guess drops one of them and is like, the 10 commandments. So I thought that was good.
Yeah. But join us next week for that. Now we're going to get to our ministry shout out. I had one in particular, but I do want to give a special one. And since Yesley's here, and Yesley, do you want to share with us what your Bible study is that you are sharing? Because people could still join in, even if they're a little bit late.
Yes, definitely. We are learning about Micah, the prophet Micah. He's one of the minor prophets, so it's a very short book.
I love that verse. Great verse, that book.
Yes. I think everyone knows, right? Micah 6. But it's how the prophets are still speaking, right? In the Old Testament, as all scripture is still alive and relevant in how it applies to our contemporary life.
All right. Very nice. So y'all make sure y'all show up for that on Wednesdays. Just show up for our dinner. Anywhere between 5:30 to 6:30, and find Yesley and get connected and attend her Bible study. The other ministry that I wanted to give a shout out to is our church prayer team. This is something I got to go to one of the meetings last week, and I've always known that they do wonderful things. But our prayer team has volunteers from our church who gather weekly, reading through the different prayer requests that people from the church submit. They give updates on it. They reach out to people, but also they just mail out cards. And they are constantly mailing out cards to anybody for a variety of needs. Maybe it's a joy, maybe someone's sick, maybe they themselves are going through some sort of hardship or something. And they just respond with prayer and let them know that our church is there to love them. And we've heard lots of great, and I was surprised, I don't know, some of the meetings y'all have attended, like they pass around all the cards that people send back, like saying thank you so much and how meaningful it is and all that. And so it really is a very special ministry. Anybody's welcome to join it. And one thing that they don't have much are male leaders in there. And so really, if you're just like, you know what, I could spare some time to write a card. Really, it's like 3 to maybe 5, a week, or you could do 1. I mean, I'm sure that'd be a big win. And it's just a time of just, I don't know. I enjoy writing cards. I do find it very reflective, and I do it very prayerfully and all that. So But so maybe that's something you could take up and just be a part of this powerful ministry. And if you are interested, reach out to Elizabeth Bucher or reach out to any of us, and we'll get you pointed in the right direction for that.
Yeah.
We will be here next week, and we hope to have a special guest as we give you more updates from our recent gala. Very big success. Did we get new microphones for the podcast?
I haven't checked, but I know that we have raised now over $44,000.
Nice.
Which
and
is
Holly
profit.
told me more came in yesterday.
More came in.
So it should be more.
It's more. I think our goal is 50,000 by the end of September. So we have plenty of time to do that, and I'm gonna just say I want to surpass our goal. I think we can.
Yeah.
Which anybody listening, you can still go onto our website, stpk.org/events/thegala. Make sure you put in that the. I keep typing in gala and it doesn't come up with any, but the gala.
Gala.
And scroll down and you'll see their sponsorship items. Some of those items include the prayer ministry is sponsoring buying stamps for all the stuff they're mailing. So that's just kind of an example. Someone bought a student ministry a new ping pong table that we're asking for, which is much needed. And then there's also the new microphones that we're requesting for the podcast and all sorts of things like that. So you could help us out by doing that and help us continue in our goal. And then speaking of the gala, we will eventually have our special guest on here who won the auction item to be our guest on the Next Day podcast. I really didn't know what to expect, but apparently there was a bidding war.
For I heard that there was a bidding war
to be on the Next Day, and so that was really cool.
Very flattering.
Yeah.
Thank you.
so we will introduce them, and we'll have them on at a later date. Just be looking forward to next week as we continue talking about the last round draft picks. We'll hopefully give you a better update and have a special guest on from the gala, giving updates on everything that happened there. But I guess that's it. Well, Yesli, we're so glad you could join us for your first episode of the Next Day. I think you did good enough to come back. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. We'll see how our listeners in Belgium feel, which we do have people in Belgium who listen.
Yes. Hi, Belgium.
Yeah, I know.
Love your waffles.
Yeah. Well, anyways, we'll see you all next week on the Next Day podcast.
See you next time.
Have a great week.
Bye.